Germany under Hitler. Who were the people who voted for him in 1933? Who trusted him? Who despised him? Who feared for their lives? What did they think when war broke out in 1939? And what did they still believe in by the time it ended in 1945? 8 diaries tell of life under National Socialism, be it fanatical support for an inhuman ideology or fear of persecution and extermination. A witness to the thinking of the time, these 8 German accounts depict everyday life, allegiance, coming of age, inner turmoil, despair, and death.
Sunday, January 1st, 1939, Breslau. Very nice weather today. Lots of snow. We bought baby food for Tamara and a nougat bar for little Susanna and me. These are the pleasures of the common man. Last night I spoke with Trudy about the Palestinian future.
Following the pogroms of November 1938, many Jews wanted to leave Germany. Willy Kohn had been thinking about going to Palestine with his family for a long time to join his son Ernst. But would Willy and Trudy Kohn be able to find work there and make ends meet? They tossed around ideas and wondered how much a move would cost.
Tuesday. A gentleman from the Schenker Moving Company came to ask about things that might be relevant for our emigration to Palestine. A very nice gentleman who was also in charge of transporting lecturer Heinemann's library to Palestine. That shipment left last Sunday. This is how everything that once embodied the intellectual life of Jewish Breslau is falling apart. One hears of departures more by chance. For me, such negotiations are a heavy burden. Trudy is different in that respect. I would find it difficult to part with my dining room. I can't just leave it behind like that. January 27th. Today, large propaganda posters of the Stürmer are once again hanging on signposts. The Jewish question has not yet been solved. It would seem that a new campaign is being prepared. January 30th is also the 6th birthday of the German Reich, and something could easily happen then.
Wenn es dem internationalen Finanzjudentum in und außerhalb Europas gelingen sollte, die Völker noch einmal in einen Weltkrieg zu stürzen, dann wird das Ergebnis nicht die Bolschewisierung der Erde und damit der Sieg des Judentums sein, sondern die Vernichtung der jüdischen Rasse in Europa.
Early on, Luisa Solmitz had been enthusiastic about Hitler. But according to Nazi racial law, her husband Freddie was considered a Jew, a second-class citizen. Now, they were set to lose their house.
The administration wrote to Freddie that he had no right to his property and had to hand it over to a trustee. The letter said, "As of today, you have lost the right to dispose of your property." Our neighbor asked if we're keeping our dog. In a flash, this question made it clear to me that the neighborhood was already expecting us to move away.
Ortrun Körber was 14 and a half years old. She had lived with her family in Japan for 9 years, where her father was a lecturer in German literature and language. Their time in Japan was not extended, and the family returned to Germany, a country that Ortrun knew only from stories. After leaving Japan, Ortrun began to keep a diary.
April 19th, Berlin. The first night on German soil is over. Tomorrow is Hitler's 50th birthday. All the houses are decorated with flags. In every shop window, there are pictures of Hitler in golden frames, surrounded by flowers.
Ortrun Körber spoke German, English, and Japanese. She read a lot, wrote poetry, loved the piano, especially Chopin. Ortrun had already seen a lot of the world. Beijing, New York, and Moscow, and now a stopover in the German capital.
Das Ständchen der Leibstandarte eröffnet am Geburtstagsmorgen den Reigen der Gratulanten.
April 20th, 1939. This morning, Papa, my sister Ingeborg, and I went to the parade. Tanks, cannons, guns, and lots of airplanes. Hitler, Göring, and ambassadors from many countries in gala uniforms stood on a podium full of flags. It looked very impressive.
After the annexation of the Sudetenland, new career opportunities arose for Egon Oehwein, working in middle management of the Reich Labor Service. He was transferred to the newly formed Sudeten district. His family moved with him to Teplitz-Schönau in northern Bohemia. The Czech town, known for its spas and factories, was home to nearly 5,000 Jews. Many of them had fled the Nazis.
The initial joy when I arrived in the Sudetenland was soon dampened. The country and its people were, understandably, somewhat run down. After a dogged search, and having considered various Jewish palaces, I decided on a 5-room flat, also a former Jewish apartment.
His wife Marta had never been so far away from her Swabian homeland. She was homesick and didn't feel comfortable in their new town.
Some of the people are in rags. The Jewish influence can be felt in every corner. The lottery economy, driven by the Jewish spirit, prevailed for decades here. So we'll be busy with development work for a few more years.
The Kohns in Breslau had applied for their daughter Ruth, age 14 and a half, to leave the country. The request was approved. She was allowed to go to Denmark. From there, she was to continue to Palestine. Another child out of harm's way.
June 12, 1939. Trudy made Ruth's last lunch especially festive today. A final meal, as Ruth called it. Now she has left home, and with her, a piece of my heart. It's important to think only of the well-being of the children. July 1st, Breslau. Yesterday, I received a letter from Ruth. She is to go to Palestine in September. It won't be as difficult for me this time. as we may arrive in the country around the same time.
The Kohns no longer saw a future for themselves in Germany. They wanted to leave the country.
A huge turning point in my life stands before me. Even if I am happy at the thought, I would be dishonest if I didn't tell this diary that it is difficult for me to say goodbye to Germany, which I have always loved.
Luise Solmitz in Hamburg had applied for Freddie's house to be transferred to her. She, the Aryan, could keep the house. After weeks of uncertainty, the authorities finally sent a response.
The house is mine. We get to keep our home and our homeland. How our world suddenly looked so different. The torture of the last few months was indescribable. We were like children, I said. I'm going to grab my door handle, open my garden door, and take my Freddie for a walk in my backyard. And that's what we did. And we were happy, just like in a fairy tale.
Luise Solmitz had become the air raid warden for several houses on her street.
I had to go to the lecture about air raids. They demonstrated a home air raid drill. Women should be more involved than they have been. A very entertaining evening. They told all adults to start humming as a way to imitate enemy planes. There was unbridled merriment.
Inge Thiele moved to Arnsberg in the Sauerland region. It was a new start. She liked the town and working in the garden center.
The sales kiosk is in the middle of the city. I work quite independently here, which is fun. On Sunday, I was on Schlossberg Mountain. From there you have a view of the entire countryside. A wonderful sight. I'll be there more often. There are plenty of opportunities for hiking here.
She made friends quickly, but hadn't yet found the man of her dreams.
June the 20th. Today I turn 25, a quarter of a century old. 25 more and I'll be old. I must decide this year. I shouldn't wait much longer to get married.
The summer of 1939. A time of relaxation, lots of sunshine, occasional rain.
The sky was overcast, but we still went to the outdoor pool. We had made ourselves comfortable. The main topic, of course, was men. Now there is a lot of talk of war again. When I was at home, every household had to be supplied with gas masks as quickly as possible. The eternal spectre of war. Our large cherry tree is bursting with fruit. The cherries make their way into our mouths by the handful. We spit the pits out in a high arc. Wonderful fruit time.
Bremen. Helmut Fischer lived here with his wife Gerda and their children. At the request of one of their children, their names have been changed. The 39-year-old teacher of history and French had just become a father for the third time. He was not a Hitler supporter, but as a civil servant was loyal to the state. On August 26, 1939, a special day for him, he began keeping a diary.
"21 years ago, I was drafted for the first time and was a soldier until November 1918. Since then, I haven't worn a uniform, but now it's time again." At 6:30 a.m., Sister Kata, who was staying with us to look after my wife and 4-week-old Erica, handed me the conscription order she had found in the mailbox.
Helmut Fischer had no qualms about his conscription. One day later, he, like everyone else, took an oath to Hitler.
Dieser heiligen Stunde habt ihr jungen Soldaten den Eid auf den obersten Befehlshaber der Wehrmacht, Adolf Hitler, zu leisten. Reicht mir den Eid nach. Ich schwöre bei Gott, dass ich den Führer...
I'm driving home again to say goodbye to Gerda and the children. Our guns and vehicles are ready to roll out of the barracks yard. August 28th. Our convoy is setting off for the station, where a freight train is waiting. Our train departs at 7 o'clock. We assume it's going east. We travel through the hilly landscape of Silesia. In the evening, the first battery festival with several speeches. Hail and victory and rich spoils.
War began on September 1st, 1939, with the invasion of Poland.
September 1st, 1939. The doorbell rang at 7:30 in the morning, and the block warden, Mr. Thiessen, stood at the door looking pale and serious. It's time. The air raid wardens have been called to duty. Fill all the water containers and put sandbags in front of the window. 8 o'clock. An announcement by the Führer. Violence against violence in Poland. The word war was avoided. Listening to foreign broadcasters is prohibited, punishable by imprisonment, even death. The heart is pounding. We darkened the room and set up a completely worthless shelter in the broom cupboard, just to make a few provisions. We hung quilts in front of it. Downstairs, Kai the cat sits on the doorstep, so peacefully, so oblivious. How fortunate animals are.
With the outbreak of the war, the situation for Jews in the Reich deteriorated. Willi Kohn sensed something terrible was about to happen.
September 2nd. I've lost all hope that we will still be able to move to Palestine. But there's no point worrying about it now. We can only live from hour to hour. It will be a terribly bloody war.
Helmut Fischer was initially deployed as a telephone operator in intelligence. He kept a diary and wrote letters to his wife from the field.
Dear Gerda, we have marched into Poland and are now on the Warta River, 60 kilometers west of Łódź. The invasion has gone off without a hitch so far, and I am doing very well. We see a few old Jews doing bridge building work under the supervision of German soldiers. Right next to the road is the first German soldier's grave with a cross and a steel helmet on it.
England and France declared war on Germany after its invasion of Poland. British airplanes flew over Bremen at night, dropping leaflets. Gerda Fischer wrote to her husband.
Our housemaid has thoroughly cleaned the storage room in the cellar. This afternoon it will be made functional and comfortable, since we already had a visit last night with so much noise that it still hurts the ears.
"12 days after the start of the war, Helmut Fischer was sure he would soon be back home. He wrote to his wife and children.
The war has been something like a joyride for us so far. Food and alcohol are plentiful. It's a good thing you're not Polish children. They have very few toys, live in dilapidated homes, sleep on straw, and are now often very scared because we are constantly shooting. If I'm not mistaken, the war will soon be over, and I'll then be able to come home to you.
Gerda Fischer sent her husband the following response.
September 23rd, 1939. The children love to play war all day long, one way or another. Pretending there's an air raid plays a big part. In their foolishness, the two really wish they had to go into the cellar.
Ortrun Körber's family had moved to Würzburg in Lower Franconia. Her father worked there as a teacher at a local school. Ortrun and her sister also attended school. Life was ordinary, but for the war and the strange new home.
Ingeborg and I joined the League of German Girls. Yesterday, my mother took us to a department store, and we bought our uniforms. Then we had to buy all the badges and swastikas. We knew so little about it that the sales clerk asked us point blank if we were all from abroad. No one who had lived in Germany for even a short time could be so ignorant. Today, I went to the first meeting of the League of German Girls. The leader talked about Hitler and read patriotic poems for 2 hours. It really wasn't a very nice experience.
Everyday school life was an unfamiliar challenge for Ortrun. In Japan, she had received private English lessons, read English books, and Shakespeare's sonnets. Now, everything was different.
Yesterday, we had to sing a song at school in which the Poles are called the shameless pack of scoundrels. Oh, how I long for Japan. I miss it so much.
Warsaw fell after only 4 weeks of fighting. Poland was defeated. there was a frenzy of victory celebrations and a grand parade in Warsaw. For years, Willi Kohn had been going to the same Breslau barber, Paul Duscha. Duscha was a Nazi, an old party comrade, but Willi Kohn was a good, long-time customer.
Duscha said he's very well informed. If England continues the war, officials intended to place all adult Jews in concentration camps and place their children under state supervision. He said, "We have the world Jewry to thank for that." Duscha clearly shows what effect propaganda can have. It was always clear to me that we are the scapegoats for everything.
Hier eine Flugaufnahme des über 22.000 Tonnen großen Flugzeugträgers Kureches, der von einem deutschen U-Boot torpediert und versenkt wurde. Kommandant und Mannschaft werden durch Verleihung des Eisernen Kreuzes ausgezeichnet.
In the newsreel, we saw the crew of the submarine that sank the British aircraft carrier. It warmed my heart. I wish I knew guys like that too. Hopefully, not too many men will fall in battle, so that there will still be some decent ones left for us.
Egon Irvine dreamed of owning his own country estate. His brother, who worked for the Nazi Party's foreign division, advised him to look at land in occupied Poland. So Irvine took a vacation and went there to look around. His wife Mata wrote to her mother in the Black Forest.
I was without news for 8 days, and then Egon returned with a big sausage, meat that I had to put in vinegar, as well as bread and butter. He said there are huge estates near Biala, Poland, that once belonged to a general, a baroness, a Jewish king. Over 50,000 acres, and Egon is to be put in charge of it all. For me, it would be quite lucrative and generous economically. It would mean running a genuine country estate with a maid and so on. For the time being, we'd have Polish workers. Imagine the sides of bacon, not to mention the geese.
But it wasn't to be. There was too much bureaucracy to deal with, and it would have taken too long. Egon Irvine stayed with the Reich Labor Service. Egon and Mata Irvine were expecting their second child.
January 1st, 1940. I was away with little Susanna. Seeing the child on her little skis again was especially cute. This morning, a Hitler Youth photographed her as a German girl. There are rumors again about Jews being resettled in Lublin. Little Susanna played very nicely. I gave her the idea that she should build a Palestinian village using her construction kit. I would also like to note that it would be best if Trudy emigrated alone with the children. I'm no longer an export commodity.
Würzburg. Otrun Körber had been in Germany for 9 months. She had a list of things she found annoying. The war propaganda, the persecution, her duties in the League of German Girls.
This morning, my group of girls and I had to listen to a long and boring lecture. The man who spoke to us assured us that by the end of the year, the German flags of victory would be flying in all enemy territory. He said that by having faith in victory, we could do our part to help win the war. What a strange way to win a war. And what an easy way.
Germany's Western Campaign began on May 10, 1940.
This is the decisive battle, says the Führer. We must sacrifice everything. We have to win. Arnsberg is so peaceful. Not an airplane in sight. They're just starting to open the public pools, which means there will probably only be women there.
On May 12, 1940, the Royal Air Force carried out its first bombing raid on a German city. It bombed the city of Bremen 6 days later.
English airplanes raged over Bremen for a full 2 hours and probably dropped no less than 100 bombs. Personally, we're fine, but I don't want to experience many more nights like yesterday.
Hamburg was also hit that same night.
May 18th, 1940. Gisela came into my bed. We cuddled up. It was raging outside. There was a tremendous impact. This was the first air raid on Hamburg. There were deaths and injuries. How different it is to wish each other good night now.
Every day, the Solmitz family gathered around the radio to listen to reports from the front. The reports were of victory.
June 14th. My hands are shaking. The unbelievable has come true. Paris is in German hands. Gisela just called and asked if I had heard the special report.
Nun rücken deutsche Truppen in Paris ein.
Gisela says, Paris has been declared an open city. Now, while the band is playing, our soldiers are marching in. My God, I'm crying like a baby. I went to see the newsreel. It was shocking and stirring.
Der Führer im Kreise seiner Mitarbeiter. Ein geschichtlicher Sieg ist errungen. Frankreichs Armeen sind zerschlagen.
The Führer, standing on one leg, slapping his knee, in bright joy as rarely seen. That leaves England.
Helmut Fischer's company took part in the campaign against France. He was awarded the Iron Cross. He sent home some spoils of war.
Send parcels to you and Grandma. They contain children's shoes, stockings, coffee, soap and chocolate. The stockings come from a stocking factory on the Seine, where we were recently. The shoes from a shoe warehouse that we found completely ransacked. We believe it's possible we have fired the last shots in this war.
Every week we go to the movies where the newsreel is played. We saw German troops take Clam, Laon, and other towns. Villages burned to the ground. Dead bodies everywhere in the ruins. I wanted to close my eyes, but I couldn't stop staring at the screen in horror. Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, Holland, France. Will it never end? Sometimes I wonder which country I would like to see win the war, Germany or all the others. And my answer is always the same. I want those who have been so cruelly attacked to have the right to be free again. But doesn't that sound terrible? I want my country to lose this war.
September 1st, 1940 marked 1 year of war. Ölwein's second son Rainer was born. The father wrote the following to his sons in the family journal.
The anniversary of the start of the war. Every Nazi German can look back on the year with pride. And for you, the youth, it's an extraordinary obligation. If it were up to me, one of you would have to become a capable farmer and political leader, the other an equally capable member of the labor service. And both of you should become capable reserve officers. But for now, you just keep pooping in your diapers and pants.
Teplitz-Schönau was within bombing range of the RAF. Important industrial plants lay just 20 kilometers outside of town.
The planes have found us. The large Hermann Göring factories in the immediate vicinity are the target. When he was all dressed and I took him in my arms, Volkart asked so sweetly, "Are we going for a walk?" At first he was happy because he thought that the planes were carrying bombs instead of bombs. In the evening, he jumped at all the windows and said, "Open the blinds. The English bees are coming."
Politics doesn't really belong here. But then again, isn't it a real eye-opener when even you had to go down to the cellar because of an air raid alarm? After all, politics is a people's struggle for life, and that concerns everyone, including babies.
Gisela had met Bertram. They liked each other. Louisa Zollmitz saw how happy her daughter was and was worried. A relationship between Bertram and Gisela would be considered racial defilement according to the Nuremberg laws. Bertram didn't know Gisela was half Jewish.
October 22nd, 1940. Gisela was at the movies with Bertram in the afternoon. His mother thinks they should get engaged. Gisela has managed to evade the topic. Isn't it terrible not to be allowed to get engaged or to get married? Bertram came to us and had a long conversation with Freddie, who told him everything. Bertram was very upset. How beautiful he had imagined it would be, and how beautiful it could have been. I felt as sorry for him as I did for Gisela. And it's also bitter for Freddie and me.
I went to Dortmund on Monday, looked for fabric, but all the warehouses were totally empty. I was on the verge of tears. We finally found some reasonably good fabric, and Auntie Lottie sewed it for me. After the war, I'll get myself a nice coat.
Inge Thiele rarely wrote anymore. At the end of October 1940, the diary was left blank for over a year, without explanation.
Went for a walk with Trudy and Tamara. We took the streetcar back. Now even the last remaining empty seats are stamped, "Forbidden for Jews." I heard about what happened in Baden and the Palatinate. 7,000 Jews were indeed evacuated and given only an hour and a half to get their luggage packed. Surely some district leader wanted to make a name for himself and make his district free of Jews. No one can say whether a similar fate awaits us here. November 1st, 1940. In the evening, I chatted with Trudy. We definitely want to pack up some items we can take with us in case of a sudden departure. Been to the barber, where he showed me the decree that Jews are no longer allowed to get a shave. But I'm supposed to keep going to him anyway.
Christmas 1940. Martha Irvine wrote the following in the family journal.
You have made great progress, dear Volkert. You play soldier very seriously, and you do nothing more enthusiastically than obeying your father's commands. Stand still. Eyes right. The rifle, helmet, and horn lay under the illuminated tree, and your eyes sparkled with the greatest of children's joys.
New Year's Eve. My thoughts are racing back and forth. How might the 3 children living outside Germany be doing? Where might they be? You can't make arrangements for the future. What will the world look like in a year?
The bombing raids on the German Reich continued into the new year. Hamburg was targeted repeatedly.
Poor Gisela crawled out of bed, overtired, and we huddled together in the broom cupboard, hunched over and shivering. When will this end? And how? Then Gisela and I made cocoa and drank our last can of sweetened condensed milk. The all clear came at 2:30. Oh, this wonderful, wonderful sinking into bed. Then the siren again. Exhausted, I convinced myself that this was surely the all clear, and we slept through the whole second alarm.
Ortrun Körber was now 16 and in 9th grade. Learning came easily to her, but the Nazi rituals did not.
It's unbelievable how often you have to say Heil Hitler at school. Every time a teacher comes into the classroom. If we meet a teacher outside school, we must greet them with Heil Hitler too. I'm sure our music teacher feels the same way about the Nazis as our family. You just know that with some people, even if they don't talk about it. I sometimes meet them on the way to school, and if no one is around, we always say, "Good morning."
This morning my old barber Dusha was all upset. He was summoned last night by the local branch of the Nazi Party for having a Jewish customer. Now he can see for himself where snitching and snooping leads. He was very sorry. I have been his customer for over 7 years. He recommended I go see a Jewish barber named Müller. I'll try to get in touch with him tomorrow.
In spring, Egon Irvine's labor service unit was deployed further east.
Family Journal, June 22nd, 1941. The news came early this morning. War against Russia. Now also on the Eastern Front, where Papa is. Oh, children, when you sleep at night, I always go to your beds, look for your father's features, and find them. Especially in Volkart. Oh, how I wish I could go to him at the front.
Auf einer Frontbreite von 2400 Kilometern vollzieht sich der größte Aufmarsch, den die Geschichte bisher gesehen hat. An allen Frontabschnitten nehmen die Operationen ihren planmäßigen und erfolgreichen Verlauf.
War with Russia. How many fates have been sealed? How many people have been sentenced to death, and how many families have been doomed?
In the afternoon, little Susanna went to play at Kozel Cemetery. The children play in a part of the cemetery that is not yet in use. That's all we have left. Starting September 19th, we'll have to wear a badge with the word Jew on it. But we won't let even this beat us down, even if life becomes increasingly difficult.
The Jewish star was introduced throughout the Reich. A police decree stated, "It is to be worn visibly sewn onto the upper left side of the garment."
The decree doesn't affect us. When I got home, Freddie gave me an update, and we fell into each other's arms with happiness. I saw the first yellow stars of David. In Hebrew style, they featured the word Jew.
September 20th. I went to the White Stork Synagogue wearing the Jewish star. I was determined to go that day so that no one could say I had been absent out of cowardice. I was not harassed in any way. Rather, it seemed as though people were embarrassed. In the synagogue, Eugen Perla delivered the shocking news that 1,000 Jews would once again have to leave Breslau on very short notice. If we were to face evacuation, I would try to store as much of our furniture as possible with the moving company.
In the fall, cold weather set in.
November 15th, 1941, Breslau. The mail did not bring us good news. We will probably have to vacate the apartment on November 30th and will probably be sent away. Where to and so on, we don't know. At this time of year, as the bitter cold has set in, it's doubly cruel. But we must get through it all now and try to persevere for the sake of the children. God will surely help us.
Willy Cohn's diary ends abruptly 2 days later. The notebook was full. On November 21st, 1941, the Cohns were arrested and taken to a beer garden, which served as a collection point. Officials kept them and over 1,000 other Jews there for 4 days, a fact documented in a dozen photos. A final set of pictures of people who are just days away from deportation and doom. On November 29, 1941, Willy Cohn, aged 52, his wife Trudy, age 43, their daughters Susanna, 9, and Tamara, 3, were shot dead in a forest near Kaunas.